Let's go ahead and disrupt something real quick. We glorify hustle. We celebrate the grind. We applaud the woman who's building empires, but silently breaking down her body to do it. And here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud you can build a 7 figure business and still be bankrupt in your health. Today's conversation, yeah, this one is real personal for me too, because I know what it feels like to look successful on paper and not aligned in my own body. So if you've ever told yourself, I'll focus on my health later, this episode is for you.
Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast, recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Mindset Mastery Moments. I am your host, Dr. Alisa Whyte, the #1 mindset disruptor, where we don't just talk mindset. We challenge it, we shift it, we activate it. And today we're going into a conversation that a lot of high achieving women avoid. The cost of success when your health is neglected. The truth about burnout, hormones, and identity. And why balance might actually be the biggest lie we've ever been told. I don't even use the word anymore. What is that anyway? Today's guest is not just talking about transformation. She has lived it. We are going to be speaking with the gorgeous Terry Tateossian. She is a serial entrepreneur, startup investor, and wellness expert with over 20 years in tech media. She built multiple successful companies, checked all the boxes, 1, 2, 3, let's go. But behind the scenes, she was struggling with her health, her weight, and obviously burnout. Then came the pivot. In her 40s, she lost over 80 pounds, transformed her body, and of course, she started with her mindset. And now she is the founder of Thor, a wellness brand helping women reclaim their energy, vitality, and power. So yeah, she's not guessing at all. She's teaching from scars, strategy, and the know-how. Terry, welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments. I have been excited to have this conversation with you, and I have seen the transformation, and they better make sure they put some of that in this video. But tell us who you are in your own words, what you do, why you do it anyway.
Thank you, Dr. White. Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. Yeah, I was lost. I was very lost in my late 30s. And just about when I was about to hit 40, everything I believed to be real, to be a fact, to be true, I later found out it was total brainwashing, right? It was a narrative that I had bought into. And I would pat myself on the back all the time about what a hard worker I was and, hard I worked and the 18-hour days I put in and, having a family at the same time. And then, people kept talking about this balance thing, like you said. And I was like, balance? I don't understand. I must be doing something wrong because I had no balance. I was either in one direction or the other direction. And, eventually I found myself in the wrong direction a couple of times where I got hospitalized twice. And yeah, so there was no 18-hour work days for a couple of times. And so I wouldn't go in one area, in one side or the other side. And yeah, the first time it happened, I believed I was having a heart attack. So I rushed the ER and I spent 2 days in the hospital. And at the end, they told me, here's the Xanax, go home. We can't find anything wrong with you. So needless to say, I went back and I was like, oh, what is this crap? Like, who has time for this crap? I don't have time for this. I can't even tell anybody because it's so embarrassing, all that stuff. And then I continued on the way I normally do. And then I ended up back in the ER again, second time. And yeah, so everything unraveled at 37.
So let's go straight here, Terry, because you built success externally and internally, and that something wasn't aligned at the end of it all. What was your version of success at that time when you went through all this stuff? Because let me share with you, it's funny because when I read your story, I was like, okay, So this is going to be real personal because I was that woman who landed in the hospital twice with a heart attack. One, they found me on the floor behind a desk. And like you, they kept me there for a week, wouldn't let me out. And then I just went right back to square one. And then within like 8 months or so, I was in there. I was driving and I had to pull over because my chest wouldn't let me move in the car. So tell me, what was your version of success at that time that obviously found was not sustainable? How did you define it then?
Yeah. So at about 25 years old, so I'm turning 50 this year. So we're talking 25 years
No.
ago.
Wait, girl,
Yeah.
stop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you look amazing. I got to
Thank you.
take my hands off. Y'all have to come on YouTube to see her face. She is gorgeous.
Thank you. It wasn't always the case, though. I look at pictures of myself at 37, and I'm like just blown away at. I looked older at 37 than I do now, and so I started on being an entrepreneur. Really, no, I didn't even know what the heck an entrepreneur was at 25.
You was just doing stuff and
I
making
just
money.
started doing stuff exactly at 25. And I was really into technology. So I had started building different e-commerce stores, different platforms. Back then, Friendster and MySpace were just out. And so I was just kind of, fidgeting around with different types of social platforms. We actually built one for contractors and homeowners, matching type of service. I think that's called Service Magic now. So, stuff like that. So back in the old school stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, I had my first kid at 30, and that's when I quit my corporate job and I went all in on
Yeah.
this quote unquote entrepreneur thing. It's, glamorized now, but let me tell you, there's nothing glamorous about that. You got to have really thick skin and a strong stomach for that.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And so I walk into that and I'm thinking it's all kind of fun and games because in the beginning it is, right? So in the beginning, everything is really rosy
Mm-hmm.
and wonderful and you're building things and, it's working and you never really thought it would work. And then all of a sudden reality sets in. It's like, okay, so I got to hire employees. Now I got to learn about HR. Now I got to learn about, 1099
Wages.
versus YouTube. Right. Then I got to figure out like, oh, is this the right hire? Or did I make a mistake? How do you fire people? Like it just went in that whole direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, okay, well now that I have employees, now that I have real W-2 employees, how the heck am I going to pay them? Right? So now I got to go learn sales. I got to learn
Mm-hmm.
marketing. I got to actually also deliver the product. I got to deliver the thing I just sold. Okay. It gets complicated, you guys.
Now you realize you need an employee for shipping and
Right.
claims and reimbursement.
Yes. And so I just dived right into it, right? And coming from an immigrant background, so I wasn't born in this country. I came here at 13. Was instilled in me that you got to work hard. Like your whole purpose in this whole life is to work. There's no other
The
purpose.
American dream, right?
The American
Which
dream,
country
right?
were you from, if you don't mind
So
sharing?
I'm Armenian, but I was born in Bulgaria. So I'm like the Kardashian, Tateossian Armenian.
Yes, I love it. We have to talk about Bulgaria. I have an event we're planning in Bulgaria for the end of the year.
Really? I've never
Yes,
heard anybody have an event
me
in
either.
Bulgaria.
Me either. When
Tell
I
me.
got on a call and they asked me to be in, and I'm like, what is going on? Why Bulgaria? And I'm like, okay. And he had their reasons. I mean, he laid it out and they're working on a 700 people event in Bulgaria. And he
That's
had
amazing.
reasons.
I want to hear
I
about
c-
this.
that's it. We're talking about this for sure. I'm like, okay, the stars are aligning. What are the odds? So yeah.
Yeah. So I was born there when it was communist, born in 76
Yes.
and left or defected technically in 87.
Uh,
And I came here in 89. And
wow.
so, scarcity mindset, right? So you're an
Yes.
immigrant, you work hard, you don't have a lot of money, you start from scratch, you start your life from zero, ground zero. And so I
All over
watched my
again.
parents struggle, for many years. And my personality is that I see somebody I love struggling. I want to help, right? I want to do whatever I can to, first of all, not be
Make
a
it better.
burden And second of all, pull my weight, like contribute, right? Be
Yeah.
useful, right?
Yeah.
And so that was my driver, right? So I've always had that inside of me. And
Mm,
so, the businesses were not just for me, they were for my family. Family members were part of them, and it was just 24/7. I say 18 hours, but really it was 24/7. Work 7 days a week, nonstop. And when you're an entrepreneur, when
you're
you're a
never
true
off.
entrepreneur,
True entrepreneurs are never off.
yeah, you will give up everything for that goal,
Mhm.
right? You
Mhm.
will give up your sleep, you will give up your health, you will give up your mental health. You don't exist. Your only purpose is to
You're
grow
just a
that
you're a
business.
facilitator of that's
Yeah.
it. The vessel that carries it. It's like a pregnancy that never ends. Oh my goodness, that's so good. So, yeah, that burnout, of course. So, were you aware you were in burnout at any point mentally, or did your body force you to pay attention?
Zero clue. I was clueless
Mm,
because it doesn't happen overnight. Literally, and for some people it happens faster, and for other people it takes much longer. For me it took 15, 16 years before I realized, like, yeah, you're 80 pounds overweight and you're in denial too. A lot of the times and a lot of the years you're in denial, right?
yes.
So you don't really look at yourself as, you don't want to be the impediment. You don't want to be the weakest link in the chain, right? And so
Yeah.
you're not really going to acknowledge the fact that I'm breaking down, because you cannot break down. That's not an option. And
Yeah.
so I would just like sweep it under the sweep it under the rug.
Go.
It's not happening. Yeah. I had no idea.
That's I can share that. I mean, I looked in the mirror, didn't like what I see, and just thought it was like the last thing I ever blamed it on was lifestyle. I would always think I'm just not eating right. I'm not exercising enough. And when I did commit to that process of eating well enough, I still found myself being completely overweight because I was so stressed. And this is why I'm going to ask you this question. What were you tolerating in your life at that time that you wouldn't tolerate now? Like, what are some of those things as a woman that you know for sure it wasn't just eating and exercise, it was all these other things that you did or didn't do or allowing, and you definitely want to be the woman that you are. They say we age backwards.
I didn't know what the meaning of boundaries were.
Yeah.
Zero clue. I thought boundaries were, oh, you can't come over to my house or something like that. I had no idea that there were energetic boundaries, right? Like things I can tolerate from your vibe, right? Or there were things like personal boundary, like, okay, I need to get some sleep kind of boundary. I can't deliver this project, right? God forbid I
Mhm.
ever said that to anybody, because I'm about to pass out. I'm so tired. There's no such thing.
Mhm.
If whatever the deadline was, the deadline had to be met. And if there were team members that were not able to tolerate the pressure and would clock out, I would not clock out. I would still deliver the job on time, per spec, per whatever it needed to be, whether I didn't sleep for 4 days or not. So I
Mm,
didn't know how to say no. And I had no boundaries. And I wasn't as I mean, maybe I was demanding of team members, but I didn't expect the same level of commitment.
mhm.
Rightfully so, I'm sure.
Right.
But I would tolerate a lot of just inability to do things, right? So, and I would just kind of brush it off to, oh, it's inexperience, or this person's too young, or whatever it is. And I would take on more than I could personally handle. And I didn't know that that was a boundary thing, right? I didn't
Yes.
understand back then that you had to fire that person, let them go for their own benefit and get somebody more experienced.
Mm,
But a startup doesn't have money for that, right?
right. We're just trying to get by, and also you don't wanna go through training a whole 'nother person again.
Right.
Wow. So let's talk about emotional eating because a lot of high performing women don't even realize that we're coping that way. And a lot of times, I think people always think about emotional eating and they think overeating. But I would love for you to lay it out for us in general. All encompasses emotional eating because emotional eaters, I know the reason I would consider myself to be a recovering emotional eater is because I would not eat. In my younger years, I didn't eat when I was busy. I didn't eat when I was sad. I didn't eat when I was not. I just didn't eat. And then when I got older, I ate when I was sad. I just was going back and forth. So talk to us about that because it's such a big thing that we need to try to understand also what's going on behind the scenes in our hearts and in our minds.
Yeah, so I had the same concept as you. I had
Huh.
no idea that emotional eating fell within that it even existed. There was such a thing.
Right.
I only knew of anorexia and bulimia. And
Right.
so, in my mind, I wasn't either one. So I didn't fall within any of those two options. And so how could I
Mhm.
possibly have an eating disorder?
Mhm.
Right. And so when someone pointed it out to me, I was in complete shock because I was like, what do you mean I have an eating disorder? I don't have any one of these things because I didn't. And when I started diving into really understanding where emotional eating comes from, it is a coping mechanism, just the way I was abusing alcohol, right? So my alcohol consumption in those years quadrupled. And so there was a
Mm.
period of time where, you
Just
start out
have
with
a
one
glass of
glass
wine.
of and then all of a sudden it's three vodkas on the rocks with twist and, you know, maybe even four, right?
Mm.
And so the emotional eating part creeps up on you as well. And one of the ways that I like to explain now what it feels like
Mhm.
is that even if you are not physically hungry, let's say you had three healthy, whole food meals for the day, you don't feel physically hungry. For
Mhm.
whatever reason, there is an urge that comes up in your body
Mm.
that feels very urgent. And you have to have whatever your choice is, whatever the thing is. In my
Mhm.
case, it was ice cream and Nutella. You have to have it right then and there. It's an emergency.
Yes.
And you don't have a normal human sized portion like a normal
Right.
person would. You
Right.
eat the entire gallon of ice cream in one sitting or an entire jar of Nutella in one shot.
Mm. Wow.
And then the cycle begins, right? Because
Now
what
you
ends up
sit back and
happening.
think you need more on another day.
Right. And so you experience the shame, you're experiencing the
Mm.
guilt, you're beating yourself up, all the negative voices pop up like how could you do this? How could you do it? And then that eventually leads to another episode. And what I like to say is, if it feels urgent to you in that sense and you cannot stop, right? And you're not physically hungry. So I'll
Mhm.
give you another example. A normal person or a regular person that does not have an emotional eating issue can eat half a slice of chocolate cake and be satisfied.
Right.
An emotional binger, an emotional eater could have the entire cake.
And still want more. Whoa. That's a difference. And wow, that's deep because in so many ways we're talking about food, but when you think about it, we can be that way about so many different things. It just adds up to not being healthy. Do you think that high achieving women use success as a mask for what's actually not working for us?
Possibly.
Hmm.
Possibly. Like just like workaholism is something that is it's an activity that's being used to cope or mask a discomfort that maybe we feel on a consistent ongoing constant basis,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it's a way to soothe the nervous system, or maybe it's a way to soothe the fear of lack of abundance, potentially,
Mm-hmm.
or scarcity. So, I have such a deep fear of being homeless, right? Or being,
Right.
coming from an immigrant perspective or, lacking
Right.
financial
Security.
security that I will
Yeah.
work myself into to the grave,
Yes.
essentially.
Yes, that is definitely a mindset that comes with being an immigrant more than people realize. And sometimes, even for our first generation American descents, we kind of transfer that over as well to them and that thoughts there. So let's challenge the narrative a little bit. Talking about health equals strategy. We've been taught build first, sacrifice now, fix your health later, but your work flips that in how you teach and how you work with women and individuals. So let me ask you directly, is health actually the foundation of success, not the reward for it, actually? Because it's like we tend to think that we get rewarded our health after we've been successful. But you're saying health is actually the foundation that we build success upon. So talk about that. Let's go deeper.
Yeah. So in my case, I was healthy. So I was very lucky. I was very healthy. And I had an
Mhm.
abundance of energy to
Mm.
borrow from, right? So I took out a big loan for my professional success, and
Mm.
I was hoping to pay that back in the future. And what I ended up noticing was that I was getting more and more into my health debt as I started approaching 40. And
Yeah.
now the interest payments were really high because now I had to go into ER. I was 80 pounds overweight. I'm 5'3". I was 210 pounds. I was having trouble just walking around, going
Yes.
upstairs.
Everything hurt. Everything hurt so bad. I've been there.
Yeah. So, but all those years prior to that, between 25 and 40, I borrowed against that wealth that I had of health in
Mm-hmm.
that period of time. Now, if I wasn't healthy, I might not have gotten as far into, my trouble as I did because I
Yeah.
wouldn't have borrowed against myself. I wouldn't have drained myself as much as I did
Mm-hmm.
because I had it, right? So I had it and I figured, I'll deal with it later, or it wasn't affecting me in the
Right.
first 15 years.
Right.
And then perimenopause showed up.
Oh, don't even talk about it. I'm glad when it's all over. I started pretty early with that, and oh my gosh,
37, I started.
I was 27 when I started. I
Ooh.
know. I was had some autoimmune disease stuff going on too, so I started early, and it was like just waking up and I'm just tripping and I can't having these anxiety. And I've met women who've gone through menopause and they don't even know. They're like, what are y'all talking about when y'all say all this stuff? But then I also feel like a lot of women go through the emotional and hormonal changes, but not necessarily the hot flashes that are so present necessarily. They don't realize that, oh yeah, that's when you kind of broke up with your ex-husband. That's when you were just telling well, you and your mom and your sister stopped getting along. You switched jobs and had they don't realize that they're being affected too, just not the way we love to talk about the hot flashes. But that's menopause is not the that's not the only symptom. Like the hot flashes to me it's just your body. And I don't want to minimize it. It's your body telling you the hormonal changes, but some people don't get the signal like that. They get it in moodiness, they get it in tiredness, they get it in sometimes these weird bursts of energy that then it becomes that they have this slung like they had a hangover. They're just grumpy all the time. They don't like anything, they don't like anyone, and I'm like, you're menopausing. You just because you're waiting for a hot flash moment. And then there's some of us, I don't know if you were, who had them all,
Yep.
deals with it.
No, I thought I was losing my mind.
I mean, so I was literally like, what is wrong with me? Especially starting off so young. I was like, dude, I've got to be crazy because I don't even like that. What I just said, what I just did, who I'm showing up as. I don't even like that. And I was like, there's another part of me is just like, what are you doing, bro?
I liked it.
I liked it. Why did you like it, Terry? Give me some, because there's some other woman that's just like, I liked being that bee.
Yes, I did.
I think in my 40s I do. I don't care. Just go whatever. You can have it. Go for it. I'm good.
For the first time in my life when I didn't know I was in menopause, by the way, in
Right. It takes a while
I
to know. Yeah.
only realized I was in perimenopause for 5 years when I wasn't already in menopause. So I
Uh-huh.
just thought that I was just losing my mind and I just didn't give a rat's poop about anything. I
It's like,
didn't.
I should
I
have done this a whole lot. I should have done this a long time ago. Remember, you were the one who didn't know what boundaries were. Now they're endless boundaries. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I was like, for the first time, I was just saying fit. Like, I was just doing whatever I wanted. Okay. I didn't give a rat's poop about what anybody thought. I all of a sudden was free. I was free because for
Good
whatever
girl,
reason,
gone bad.
my hormones were raging. And I would just
God.
oscillate between just super crazy or super duper crazy. So it was just
Ooh, it was what degree of crazy, but it was crazy. It was crazy, but it's just the levels to this.
Yeah,
Whoa.
I didn't care. I just stopped caring. I stopped caring what people thought about me. I stopped caring what the heck people expected of me, what was considered proper, my
Mm.
responsibility. I didn't give a rat's poop about it.
Did you recover? Did you recover? Because I don't know that recovery is necessary when you're like,
I think it's the best thing that ever happened to me because I felt like I was living in a cage. And that's why I was so overweight because I was constantly suppressing everything that I
who you
wanted.
truly were, and you couldn't hold it anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was done. I was done with that.
Wow.
And it felt amazing. And then menopause came, and then I calmed down quite significantly. My internal world calmed down because I
Uh,
realized, you don't have to do anything that anybody expects of you. You don't have to please anybody. Just you
mm-hmm.
could say no, thank you, and just move on with your life and F it, okay?
Right. I get it. That's where I stay at 45. I live there and I just like, I don't even know. They can talk, they cannot call. I don't know. Do you, boo? Like, seriously, just do you. And I really don't care. Now, do I take pride in excellence and stuff like it? Yeah, but I'm not, if it's not working for me, like, honestly, I missed the mark. Maybe I did overcommit. Once I find out I overcommit, which I don't do often, I'm going to say, hey, I overcommitted. I apologize. I'm not going to leave you like hanging, but I'm not going to deliver all of this because my body is saying full stop. And listen, I had to learn. We ended up in the hospital, right? We had to learn. So when my body just doesn't, my body just has to do a quirk, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's not in alignment. I just have to feel funny in my chest, a little bit of a knot in my stomach, not even a full knot. Like it's just like my stomach wants to make a knot. It's out of alignment. It's a no for me. I could just read something and it's like all comes up on my screen. It's like, do not engage. I don't know where it comes from, but it's there. Okay, do not engage. Do not ever engage. Just never engage ever again. And I'm cool with it. And I'm not going back and forth with you. You could be calling, you could be cussing out. I don't know what you're doing. Number one, I don't even deal with people who act that way. But just let's say it's some weird thing happens and I do encounter you. It's like, okay, bye. My energy, I don't have it. I tell people like I did enough when I was younger, just being all those things that didn't align with me that I don't have it. Like I saw someone do this in a movie. Wait, let me see. I just was looking to see how many F's I have. I didn't have any left. I was like,
Right.
that is so me right there. Can't find it. All gone.
Yep. Exactly.
So women are going to love this episode because here's the thing. When it comes to our leadership in our businesses and in our work, if you could tell us, how does these hormones and stress and burnout impact our performance? Like, I want to hear what your thoughts are on that because there is an impact on it for me because when I wasn't listening, it didn't work. But listening, we work together. It's me trying to be against what my hormones and not paying attention to it is what caused the problem. It wasn't my body at all. It was me going against it. What are your thoughts?
I am convinced that the amount of stress that I put myself under just to deliver, to be a good provider and all this crap, right? All the stress, the anxiety, the
Mm,
constant hamster wheel of running on cortisol, right? It's because you get
yes.
up in the morning and you rush to work and you do all these things and you're just constantly like doing this stuff. I think I was duped. I don't think I'm made for this crap. Like I'm not made to men, I think are fantastic. doing these things. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what the heck I was doing.
We
Why
weren't
was
actually built to do it that way. Genetically, hormonally, women aren't the thing. And that's why I'm like, why are y'all over here? Like, your body, your choice. Absolutely. And I say your body, but I'm not talking about abortion. I'm talking about if you want to work, you want to be on top of trucks, yes, you can. But if you're doing it to challenge what is called status quo or prove that if he can do it, I can do it, you're in the wrong line. And that's why a lot of women who are, I call it manning, we carry that extra stomach because that's cortisol, baby cakes.
I was manning and I didn't know it. I didn't like it, but I didn't know.
We
I
didn't
thought
know.
that's what I was supposed to do
We're
because
like,
they
yeah, because my hormones, I'm getting older. Yeah, of course I'm gonna gain weight. Like, that's what happens, right?
no,
That's what I thought.
does
That's what
not.
I thought when I was 10. I was like, it's a woman's body. But I'm like, I don't like it though. I hate it. I really hate my body. I don't like it. But
Mhm.
here's the thing, Terry. I remember I got a job one time and I had already gone through where I'd hit my goal weight and I had been maintaining for about 2 years. And I was on, I've got things normalized in my life where I know when I want to eat, not to overindulge, not to not indulge. Like, it was working. I was in control. I still am right now, but I was 2 years in, right? And I got, because I'm now aware, right? And I remember reading an article and then I did research about when your boss has high cortisol levels, how it literally completely transfers into the entire department, company, whatever. Big deal. So I got there and every woman, it was very women led. And I was proud of them. They had worked their butts off. But I found that these women all had a huge stomach, disproportionate to their thighs and the rest of their body. But the stomach is huge and everybody's just rolling around. And then I realized, oh, there was a culture. Everybody ordered fast food almost every day of the week and ate. Nobody brought lunch like I did because I'd have a salad with a piece of salmon. And that was me. That's how I maintain my weight because I prepare to eat. I don't think about it's 2 o'clock, I'm getting hungry. I fast still mostly one every day and I have a meal. If I don't, I'm probably just going to fast later till I go home and get my meal. Rare, I would stop and eat, except intentionally food was on the menu. Like, we're going to this restaurant. I know what I'm going to get there. And I looked at that and I was like, this is not going to, that was one thing. But you know what? All those women, they were in the office till 8 at night. And if they weren't in the office till 8 at night, they were working from home. You're getting emails. When I come in the office in the morning, why was she emailing at 10 at night? All these one, blah, 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 blah. And then the next thing you're like, it's her day off, but she's joining every call and every meeting. And I was like, you know what? This ain't going, like, I literally did not want to work there because of the unhealthy. You know why? Do you know? They wanted me to line up with those
Of
ideals.
course, it's
And
contagious.
I said boundaries. Nope. First of all, when I leave here, this phone that you guys give me is off because I don't work there. I work here. So that's for when I'm at my hours. I don't check my emails. I don't bring my laptop home. When needs be for a project, I would work a little later, but that's about an hour over because I know how to I build systems to make my workflow. And I realized every no I said to them and that way of me setting those boundaries for myself and my health, it made them aggravated. They weren't happy with me. And I was like, okay. I walked in and I was like, usually I give a 2 weeks notice and do a transition, but I realized I hadn't been here that long and I don't want to waste any more of your money or my time. So here you go. That was my resignation letter to the Lutz. And I said, I'll see you guys around, meaning I will see you around because this industry, I'm running this. I just was here because this is my bridge, right? But I was not gonna, Terry, I was not gonna compromise my health, my sanity. And like you said, I would live in my car and take showers at a hotel before I work in a place like that. They don't know what they don't know, but I know what they don't know. And I don't.
Exactly. Once you experience what it's like to come back from that, you never
Mm.
want to you never want to find yourself there because it's one of the most difficult things to do is to come back from that. right? And
Mm-hmm.
to rewire your brain again, to reframe your mindset again, to re identify yourself again, right? And to actually
Mm-hmm.
begin to believe that you're the type of person that has a standard for your personal growth. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
that you're not there to, work for the rest of your life and not actually live your life.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And living our lives really means mindset, growing your mindset, becoming more aware, becoming a better human being, having better relationships, right? Our lives are not all about just working 24/7 like I used to. There's more
Mm-hmm.
value to us than just that, just earning a paycheck.
Yes.
And so, and the other thing you made me think of is I realized recently, I read somewhere, did you know that our microbiome so if you're constantly around people with an illness like that's in their belly, you're gonna catch that whether you want to or not.
Speak on it, sis. Speak on it. No, keep speaking. No, teach us because I need people to understand how real this is. Like, this is a real thing. It's not a joke. This is scientifically proven. Tell
Mhm.
us about that microbiome. And that's what that hit me because I'm like, when you look around, even with women, our menstruals sink
Yes.
when we're around each other. We just
Yes.
keep, and then it starts bouncing back and forth. And I'm sure it's because one woman's hormone, there's a dominant female. And like, no, there isn't just a dominant female. One woman will dominate at different times throughout the time that they spend together. And if that's happening, yeah, there is scientific proof about your gut health and microbiomes and how contagious it is. That's why you have to be careful who you work with, who you're married to, who you're hanging out with. It's why we look so young.
And I mean, think about it, right? So if you're spending a lot of time at work, the majority of the time that we spend awake is at work. And if you're surrounded by the type of environment and culture that your values don't align with, and the majority of the people are aligned because they've been there a long time and that's their culture and that's how they want to do things, and you are entering that environment, you either have to submit to that culture or you have to leave, right? And so when it's not aligning with you and you stay, that's not having a boundary.
Mm,
I learned that, right? So not having a clear boundary of what you're going to tolerate and what you're not going to tolerate. But if your mindset is in the scarcity mode, you might put away your values and submit to that environment that is not aligning with your culture. What ends up happening is that your identity, you have to dim yourself and basically become a different person in order to survive in that environment. And what ends up happening is you get emotionally and energetically sick. You get sick
mm,
energetically. And that
mm.
translates, manifests itself to physical illness. And so my belief really is, yeah, we catch other people's microbiomes, right? And then it could be in a good way too, right? It could be a
Right?
positive way, but when it's in a not productive
Mm-hmm.
environment for you personally and you stay there long enough, you get energetically sick. And once you get energetically sick, it starts to manifest into physical illness and it manifests into different things, right? So people have different vulnerable systems. So one person might, experience it as anxiety. Another person might experience it as depression or prediabetes, or it could be, gut health, or it could be something else. And we start treating technically the symptoms of the energetic illness because we don't
Mm,
understand that we can be energetically ill. And that's where emotional eating really hit home for me because it
wow.
wasn't an emotional eating problem. It was an energetic illness problem I was having. I was misaligned in what I was
Mm,
doing, where the whole purpose of everything I did was to earn money, but I could care really less about that because I didn't want to be driven financially.
mm.
Nothing I do now is financially driven. The finances, they follow, they come, but that's not
Right.
why I
The
do it,
byproduct.
right?
Exactly.
My soul is aligned with what I do. And hopefully people find it valuable enough to pay me. But, back then I couldn't take that chance. I never really understood, like, oh, how could you be a yoga
Right.
teacher? What the heck? How am I going to be a yoga teacher? Like, who's going to pay me for that? Right? It didn't make any sense to me back then when I was 20, but at 50, apparently it does. And so, yeah, so that's why I
Because it
came in.
aligns. It aligns. So it just does. The
Mhm.
byproduct of the money it comes. Everything comes when you stay in alignment with yourself. Period. Period. Pooh. Period.
You have to trust the universe. Exactly. And
Yes.
I lack that. I didn't trust the universe. I mistrusted it, actually.
That's deep. So many of us are in that spot. And when it comes to we don't trust ourselves and our own what we are thought. Let's face it. I was talking about it yesterday on the podcast. Like you when a child says they don't like an adult, so that 5-year-old or that 4-year-old, like an uncle and aunt would come by and they were like, there's like, hi, and you're like, you don't wanna, you don't, you keep the child keeps pulling. It's like, why do you do that? Stop doing that. That's your auntie. She loves you. Doesn't she always bring you something? It's like the child isn't like. So we're from there. We're taught, or we go to a store and someone's trying to say hi to us. We're taught not to listen to our instinct and that our feelings and our energy, like you said, energy is misleading. So here we are, though. We start to trust an industry that gives us quick fixes, detox teas, discipline shaming, like your reason, get up off the couch and move. I'm like, if mentally you don't think you deserve to be healthy or you only deserve to work and make sure everybody's good, there is no getting up off the couch. You're literally putting the cart in front of the horse and the cart can't pull the horse. Let's go back to it. So is it a lack of discipline or a lack of education when it comes to what we're dealing with and getting into that sabotage and misidentity?
I think it's both.
Listen, if you've been hearing this conversation, something in you feels called out, call forward. That's not by accident, because what Terry just said is where most people stop. We'll talk about habits, we'll talk about burnout, and we'll also talk about food. But we don't talk about the real root: misalignment, identity, energetic illness. And if you're honest, you already know where you're out of alignment. You've just been negotiating with it. So here's a real question I want you to leave with before we continue this conversation. What are you tolerating right now that your body has already rejected? Because in part 2, we're going deeper. We are talking about identity, self-sabotage, and the uncomfortable truth about why some of us stay stuck, even when we know better. So don't go anywhere. Hop over to part 2 and share this episode with another woman you love. We'll see you on the inside.